Let's talk about this Passport Bro documentary that came out around Christmas time or so, so relatively fresh. I just found out about it a couple of days ago. It came out on Singaporean TV right here in Southeast Asia. And by the way, welcome to my live stream. I am a real life Passport Bro, and I'll let you know in a second why I use the word real. And I've lived here in Southeast Asia, in Thailand in particular, for over 2 years now. And I think that I'm one of the few people who can probably give you guys such a precise sort of reaction to this documentary. And by the way, well done. At least I've watched only 10 minutes. I got to tell you, I watched the first 10 minutes and I thought, well, you know what? Let me do this kind of a live reaction to this as I am watching it with you guys. So if you have any questions and you're watching me live, definitely put them in the comments. I'll try to get to them maybe at the end. If you're, watching me afterwards, your comments are always welcome. So you know what? Let's get going. I haven't done this in a while, but let me do it this way. And hopefully you guys can hear the sound because this is the first time. And here we go.
Meet Austin, Alex, and Paul. They're all from America, and they've all been hit by Cupid's arrow in Asia.
Am I seeking love? Yes. Yes, I think that's fair to say.
They're part of a growing group of young Western men who travel abroad to look for romance.
So I'm going to interrupt right here. So, I mean, she said young Western men. Actually, I would argue that a lot of Passport Bros are much older because we remember what it's like to be either married or in a relationship with a real traditional woman. We miss it, and as soon as we realize that it's just no longer American, no longer available in America, that model apparently got discontinued. And we also have the means. A lot of these 20-something-year-old guys, yeah, they show up here, but they have very different reasons, and I'll address it in a second. But let's keep watching.
A movement that calls themselves the Passport Bros.
All right. That's another thing. We don't call ourselves Passport Bros. As a matter of fact, a few Passport Bros that I know personally didn't even know they were Passport Bros until I told them. Secondly, we hate the term. Okay, we're not bros, and we're not trying to flex our passports. Everything is much more simple than that. So I hate the term. Most of us don't know the term. And those guys who get on social media using it are not real Passport Bros. And like I said, I'll address that. And by the way, the reason all these faces are blurred out is here in Thailand, we do have a privacy laws that are, quite strict. So you can't just go and film and put it up on social media with other people's faces. So they're just being careful.
I think it's refreshing when men come here, they find a really feminine, nurturing woman that trusts them.
While some see no harm in these men roaming for romance.
ถ้าทุกคนสามารถมีตัวเลือกที่เหมาะสมนะครับยิ่งเยอะก็ยิ่งเป็นสิทธิ์ของเขา
Others find their motivations distasteful.
Yeah, so first of all, Thai language is one of the hardest languages to learn. I've been learning for 2 years, and I'm still not very good at it. Though I do only date Thai women who don't speak English, and this is what we're going to talk about it also later in this video. But let's continue watching.
It kind of fulfills their expectations that brown people should be servicing white people.
They just want quick hookups.
What's driving this trend? And how does Asia really?
Yeah, so as you can see, from what I understand, this is a Thai woman who speaks good English. And this is why I stay away from them, because there's almost no difference in Thai women who speak English, or really any Filipino women or whatever. And I just went to Kenya, same thing. If a woman speaks English, especially this well, that means that she's already been probably poisoned by the American culture, American dating culture. She probably already dated some foreigners, and we have the worst foreigners sometimes come in here, the ones that call themselves Passport Bros who are not. So, but I'm glad that this documentary actually gives both sides. So Yeah, I like that.
Really feel about passport bros.
Okay, I think this is their promo. Okay.
My name is Paul Lee. I'm a Korean American and I moved to Thailand 4 years ago. I'm a full-time content creator and a digital nomad.
Paul is
All right, so here's the thing, and like I said, I didn't watch this long enough to know if he is actually a digital nomad or he doesn't understand the term, because passport bros are never digital nomads. The whole point of a passport bro, and he will actually explain this in a second, is to move somewhere, to find a wife, and create a family. Digital nomad is somebody who moves from one place to another, and the whole point is to consistently keep moving from one country to another or city to another. So you can't have both. Now, I do want to add that a lot of, I would say, us passport bros don't necessarily see getting married as sort of the final destination, because once we get here, we also realize that there are so many choices of different types of lifestyles because of type of women that are here, that, you know, marriage is not necessarily 100% the goal. But it was when I got here, and it is for most guys who are passport bros.
28, from New York. Now he calls Bangkok, Thailand, home. He's one of many young Western men who identify themselves as passport bros.
A passport bro is a recent term that's been very popularized recently. It's basically where a man traditionally from the West moves and migrates to another country, like in Latin America or in Southeast Asia, to pursue women they see as more feminine, right? And the whole goal of this is to find a long-term relationship and to build a family.
The biggest topics are...
Yes, he nailed it. It's pretty much right on the money. It is, you know, I would add another kind of layer to it, because people don't find out about this until they get here. Just getting away from Western women is already such a freeing experience, never having to talk to them, see them. Well, we do see them sometimes, you know, date them, match with them on dating apps, take their shit, you know, open doors for them, none of that shit. So that is already liberating enough. But at the end of the day, yes, the goal is to find a long-term relationship of any kind, not necessarily marriage, because I got to tell you, like, for example, in countries like Thailand, non-monogamy is very much tolerated. So some men who, for example, don't want to be monogamous, you know, this is not a bad place, because you don't have to lie, you know. All right, let's get going.
on the internet.
I first saw it on social media a couple years ago, and it was just blowing up all over my feed.
A single guy.
They're leaving in droves for other countries.
I want it. I want it. Oh, women, clothes and cars. Fine out the...
These videos
All right, so this is what I'm talking about. A lot of these videos that even this documentary kind of put up for you, they are not real passport bros, and I'll tell you why.
are some of the tens of thousands with the hashtag.
Actually, let me go back. Let's see if I can go back just a little bit.
I want it. I want it. Oh, women, clothes and cars.
Okay, so we would never do that. If you're a good man who came to another country for, you know, a traditional woman, you would never actually put her on camera, first of all. And these women don't want to be on camera, right? Why would you want to put your future wife potentially on blast for everybody to criticize? And you know how everybody jumps on you, right? Especially Western women. They cannot stand us, you know, seeing us happy. They cannot stand their competition winning us over. So why in the world would you do that? You would never do that if you're a good man. You would never brag about it. And as you can see, a lot of these women, including this lady here on a screen, and I don't mean to go specifically after her, they're not dressed appropriately for these cultures as traditional women would. You know, your boobs out, your ass hanging out. These are not the traditional women in these cultures. They're just the same type of girls who most likely speak English and model themselves after American girls to appeal to a lot of these losers who come here and pretend like they're passport bros. They have tattoos, nose rings, all kinds of hair colors and all that bullshit. They're trying to look, it's always at some bougie place where, you know, essentially you take them or they don't date you, right? A lot of times these guys essentially buy these women who are not traditional, and then they brag about it on social media. These are not passport bros. We want to have nothing to do with them. I would never post any, even the girls that I'm dating casually, I would never put on social media. They don't act this way. They don't ask for money and demand that you take them to nice places. And I definitely don't show cash or whatever other things. You know, we're all rich here. Okay, there's just not a big deal to be rich here. You know, you can make 60 grand a year in America and you're rich here. So this whole bragging thing, that's not a passport bro thing. That, you know, I resent. And they're killing the term.
These videos are some of the tens of thousands with the hashtag Passport Bros on TikTok.
Yeah, there's some tattoos, there's some boobs.
The term passport bro is believed to have originated in 2004 to describe Brazilian sex tourism. It then mostly fell out of popular use.
Yeah, it came from such a wrong place. I really wish we would find another term for this, but I think it's kind of too late now.
But then, in late 2022, it was revived and exploded in popularity, according to Google Trends. The term.
Now, I think you guys know, and I don't know if this is part of the documentary, but obviously after COVID, a lot of people were able to work from home, and a lot of guys realized that they're no longer stuck physically in the country like America. They can actually go explore the world and realize that women out there are nothing like what they see in America. And these young guys, like these guys, probably have never been with a traditional girl. You know, their mothers are unlikely to be traditional women, most likely single mothers, right? Or with simp fathers. So they never even knew that this even exists. Unlike us, you know, old farts, we know exactly what we're looking for.
The term trended on TikTok and Instagram as borders reopened and international travel resumed post-COVID-19.
More hoes.
By November 2023, the hashtag Passport Bros had gained more than 470 million views on TikTok. So what is driving this surging trend? Well, the popularity of Passport Bros coincides with the decline of romantic relationships in some Western countries, particularly in the United States.
Right now in America, I'm seriously concerned that there is a big shift happening. And there are a lot of factors that feed into it. So we have less marriages happening.
Arlene has more than...
So, you know, this is something that I have always had a hard time telling even my friends, close friends, who obviously believe me and trust me, who are married and have been married on long-term relationships for a long time. Actually just had a conversation like that earlier today, that cannot even believe what I'm telling them about what's happening with the dating world. And, you know, this is important when it's a female matchmaker that is telling the world that, things are shit. You know, you got to listen to her.
More than a decade of experience as a dating and relationship coach. Now she travels around the world to teach matchmakers the art of connecting people. A 2022 Pew study showed that 63% of American men under the age of 30 describe themselves as single, compared to 34% of women.
So this is an interesting, this is very, very mathematically impossible number, right? Well, I guess it is, but, you know, first of all, a lot of men consider themselves single because they don't think they want to be committed or are committed to their women. And a lot of women are delusional enough thinking like, oh, this dude is banging me once a week or, you know, buying me presents online or whatever. We must be in a serious relationship. But it is definitely, it's definitely a result of what's been happening, but I don't want to digress. Let's continue watching.
The matchmakers that I work with are finding a big difference in expectations from what women want and what men want. In the past, I would say women in particular would get married for financial security. They no longer need that. Now they want to get married for love. They want to find a partner who's compatible.
Yeah, so I would disagree there. I would say it's the other way around. First of all, I do think that there are plenty of women out there who still need, they don't have their shit together in terms of finances, and they do need a provider. I mean, just because if she can get entry level Mercedes for small lease payment and maybe a little studio apartment somewhere doesn't make her financially secure to the point where she can have a family, right? A man still needs to come in who can afford a 3-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood, private school, and so forth and so forth. So this is not really correct. If anything, I would argue that women more and more are asking for money, and by the way, that's already like all over the place here in Thailand and Southeast Asia. I was just in Kenya. It's already there. So if anything, women are asking for more money than they've asked for before. Before that, it was kind of like, well, can you provide for a family? Can you provide for basics? Now it's much more than that, and it usually starts, hey, can you take me to a $200 dinner just to say hi? Can you pay for my Mercedes payments and so forth? So if anything, and she's right in the beginning, the demands of women have gone up significantly. But what they have to offer to men, if you ask us, has fallen drastically. And that's why a lot of men are either just stop dating because they say, well, it's not worth it, it's not a good deal, or they have very transactional relationship, or become passport bros. So I disagree with her on this one.
Who has similar core values and lifestyle goals, and a partner who's going to confer and not just go off and make decisions on his own. Young men don't know what they're...
Yeah, the difference about the lifestyle goals is that, if a woman wants a Mercedes, if a man wants a Mercedes, he wants to earn enough money to buy one. But if a woman wants to have a Mercedes, she wants to get a guy who would buy her a Mercedes. So this is a little tricky as far as same financial goals, right? Yeah, maybe same financial goals, very different financial sources, right?
What they're supposed to do to connect with women. Women don't know a lot of the things of what they should be looking for in a man. There's no blaming women.
Oh, she is not wrong there. Women certainly don't know what a good man is anymore, and I don't even blame them. A lot of them are raised by, like I said, sim fathers, or most of the time single mothers, so they don't even know what a good man is. A lot of times I've noticed, whether it was America or even here in Thailand or in Kenya and other countries, I've been to over 30 countries, I've lived on 3 different continents, but what I've noticed in the last several years is that, these women who technically are good women, they just don't know what a good man is. So they end up, especially here in Thailand, with assholes, right? Because assholes are really good at appearing like they're good guys, but women don't really understand. Like here in Thailand, women don't even ask a guy if he has any like legal ways to stay here, if he's learning Thai, if he has any Thai friends, and most of them don't. And then these girls essentially become what's called holiday girlfriends, where these guys, live here for a few months, even for a few years, but when they're done, right, when their job assignment is done, or they just want to move on to another country, they dump these women. And these women, essentially become very standoffish to foreigners, thinking that all foreigners are the same. But it's not. It's the foreigners they chose are this way. And then someone like me comes in and goes like, but I'm actually a good guy. But they don't believe you anymore, right? So it's kind of like I almost don't blame them for making such bad choices, because they don't know what good choices even look like.
Women, there's no blaming men. It's just that it's an uncomfortable time where things are changing.
Well, I blame men, because if men continue allow women to behave this way, disrespect men, take money from men, and a lot of you simps are offering it to them before they even ask. If we don't do that as a group, then we would not have this problem in the first place, and I would come back to America. So I blame men.
One change is reflected in how the genders view society. Young women in the US have become increasingly liberal, while men trended slightly more conservative. This divide is especially stark after 2017. This period coincided with the Me Too movement, a social campaign to raise awareness of sexual assault and harassment against women.
And I got to tell you, I was part of that. I was very much supportive in the Me Too movement, because it was exposing a big problem that a lot of men have created over the years, and it was time to change the culture, and I was completely behind it. Little did I know that it was going to turn into essentially women, as always, taking more than they originally wanted and deserved, and started using this against men with all the false accusations and so forth and so forth. And now we went from, hey, you should believe women, to I am definitely not going to believe women. And that's where I'm at.
Me Too went viral following the allegations of abuse by Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. The gender divide was widening and bled into romance.
They're becoming very antagonized towards each other, especially on social media. Like, they'll say that all women are bad or all women are going downhill. There's no good women in America. They'll say these general statements like this.
Well, okay, so we do say that because it's true, and not all, we never say all women. We're saying majority of single women in America. So it's not all women. And also, and this is the reason that I left, and I think a lot of guys do, is because it is just impossible to find those few. And even if you do find a few good women, sooner or later they will succumb to this new culture because of their friends and social media and a bunch of other stuff. So you may have a nice traditional girl for a while, until the culture essentially damages her, and then you have to get a new girlfriend. So why bother?
And I think those kind of narratives can just further divide people.
Men and women have very differently evolved psychologies. Our female ancestors had to make sure that we were with partners that would care for our offspring. And so in a modern environment where suddenly we don't need men anymore to provide resources.
Well, again, I'm going to disagree here. Some women don't, but majority of them that do, especially when it comes to having a family. Like I said, there's a difference between being a independent woman and traveling to Europe and having your apartment and living on your own, even though a lot of these women don't have savings, don't have lifetime investments and all of that stuff. But if they want families, they're just not able to provide for those families. So they do need. Now, of course, there are exceptions, and there are more and more exceptions nowadays. But it is just not true yet. There's there's plenty of broke women in America and around the world.
So many women might realize that actually, wait a second, I don't need a man. And male psychology, on the other hand.
Well, this is where stupidity comes in, right? Because yes, man's number one gender role is to provide, but there's also to protect and to make good decisions. But also, women don't realize that besides money, they do rely, and this is how we're all made, whether you like it or not. Men need women, women need men, and women need men on more of a emotional level, as you know, right? That you cannot buy, where men can definitely buy things that they mainly need from women. And this is where I think women have gone in a very wrong direction, where it's going to end up in a very bad place for them.
Hand is very much inclined to pursue a lot of sexual and mating opportunities.
A study in 2020 found more Americans have become sexless, especially young men. About 1 in 3 men aged 18 to 24 said that they had no sexual activity in the past year, a significant jump from 2000. But this wasn't the case for women.
All right, before we get into that, which essentially she's just about to call women whores, American women, right? But I do have a few friends who are younger, and I gotta say that young men just have less interest in sex, which is kind of weird. I guess, when we were younger, right, my generation, and even maybe a previous generation, sex was more of a taboo. There was a lot of exploration. There was not even porn. Getting hold of porn was definitely, not easy, right? sneaking up after high school into some video store. It's just, you know how it was, right? But now it's just everywhere. So everyone's kind of overstimulated. And I'm surprised to when I talk to younger men, they just don't look at sex like we do. They just don't look at it as a big priority or whatever. So it, and on the other hand, a guy who really wants to have sex will end up figuring out how to pay for it, essentially, right? It's if anything, there's more than ever websites and apps, including Tinder and Bumble, where you can easily find that product for sale, right? So that one is also easier. So I gotta tell you, a lot of these guys are not what they call incel, right? Involuntary celibate. They just don't have as much interest in that. But let's keep going.
So you could see how in a modern environment, when a male psychology cannot really pursue these.
Oh wait, so she wasn't going to give the numbers. Okay, well, she's saying it's not the same for women. Well, then essentially what's happening is a lot of American women are banging a bunch of dudes, more than dudes banging girls. Now, again, I'm always skeptical about statistics like this because they're really hard to get. Right? I mean, are you sure you're getting the real information and where you're getting it and what is the slice of data and how you're manipulating data? So I'd like to know where that study comes from, because every time I dig in, I realize that, well, that's not really true, right? So, but essentially they just called all American women whores. All right, fair enough.
Opportunities anymore, that they might turn to other strategies to obtain sexual or romantic access.
To find romance, some men are trying their luck overseas. These are the passport bros. Many of them are young digital nomads.
All right, so this is where I kind of have problems with these documentaries. They do a lot of research and they still don't get it right. I already mentioned, if you're a digital nomad, you're someone who moves from one place to another, and it's kind of a thing for you. And a lot of people just want to see the world this way, right? Their goal is to see the world. Us, the real passport bros, no, we pick one country and we assimilate there, and we meet a girl there to marry and raise a family, if you want to have kids, for example, or whatever, and settle down. So no, we're committed. Like, I have a visa that's extendable to 20 years, base 5 years, so I have no interest in going from one country to another. I visit other countries every about 3 months or so, but Thailand is my home. So even they don't even understand it, which is kind of sad, because they should have done better research, because this term existed for a while now.
Professionals who leverage internet connectivity and remote working tools, allowing them to travel and work from virtually anywhere. At their core is a belief in traditional gender roles, which they think are disappearing from Western society.
Well, we don't think. They are disappearing from Western societies. As a matter of fact, I would argue that, the women who are single now are already done with that.
Passport bro is someone who wants to basically find a traditional wife. I think in the West, a lot of women don't want to be traditional, don't want to take on these traditional gender norms. And they want to essentially put on the shoes of the traditional man, I guess. And I'm not saying that's bad, Every single relationship.
Oh, I'm saying it's bad. It is bad for both. It's bad for men, obviously, who are not able to find good wives and create families and continue on the generations and so forth, and having to leave. Or I know a lot of men who just basically just stop dating, right? And it's bad for women, because, the better quality men who don't want to take that shit essentially excuse themselves from the dating pool. And this is why women now complain, oh, there's no good men. Yeah, you drove them all away one way or another, either into their game rooms or into Thailand and Philippines. So this is bad for everybody. But as I mentioned before in my other videos, this is going to end up, women in their 40s and 50s will have absolutely no choice. As a matter of fact, you see a lot of videos of them saying, oh man, I can't believe I followed all this bullshit culture and listened to Beyonce, and now, there's no going back, because, good men who they want 25-year-olds, right? So, and they're in their 40s and 50s. But for men, we can be in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. At least we can purchase what we need, right? So so this is going to end up bad. This is bad for both sexes, but it is going to end up badly for women, especially with AI replacing already sort of a long distance online relationships, because AI's bots are just better than women nowadays. And as soon as robotics catch up to the actual physical interaction, game over.
Relationship's different, every person's different, but I think it's refreshing when men come here, they find a really feminine, nurturing woman that trusts them and that they can kind of go in the same direction with, and kind of have the same traditional values and traditional roles, such as women cooking and cleaning, whereas these things would be seen as kind of controversial in the States.
This is the website of a self-described official passport bros company, launched in the United States in 2023. It's run by Prometheus Worley and his son, Clifford. They provide information for aspiring passport bros.
It's a passport family. I actually never heard of this. Let's see what they do.
Tips include how to date in different cultures, how to find accommodation and flights, or rent a private jet.
Okay, private jet is just fucking stupid. But I actually have I have a course myself at the millionmenproject.com where I have compiled all of this information step by step on how to become a passport bro, because it's more than that. Because even part of my course, and I did a video about it yesterday, if you want to check it out, is like what a traditional woman even is. Because you hear this, you know, we're all saying traditional woman, but a lot of these guys don't even know what a traditional woman is, and a lot of you have forgotten. So that's part of my course, but there's more to it. There's about how to look for the right country, how to move correctly, how to wind down your life in America or whatever. So check it out if you have a chance, the millionmanproject.com. The link is in the description.
Right now, we're just an informational service. That's why we're standing at 500,000 men, subscribers, and we're not charging. There's such a disconnect between men and women that men have to literally be on their guard just to interact with a woman. So men are opting to leave. You go where you're appreciated versus staying here where you're just tolerated.
Well, I would go even further. You're not just tolerated, but you're a prey a lot of times, right? Like you can be doing absolutely nothing. And if a girl doesn't like you, didn't like the date with you, you know, you can be accused of rape, right? So it's more than just being tolerated.
Like how
Prometheus first heard about passport bros 2 years ago. To his surprise, the criteria seemed to describe his life long before the movement even had a name. It began when he got divorced from his wife after 12 years of marriage. He was 35.
My spouse had cheated on me, and it shattered my ego. It broke me into 1,000 pieces. I ended up going to Southeast Asia in 2013. There's a whole different culture and mindset that a lot of the women have there. The environment is completely different. Fast forward, my son, who's my business partner, noticed that there were...
You know, it's sad that more and more men report that, and you know, from what I understand, over 70% of marriages or divorces initiated by women, and some of them have a good reason, but it is more and more, it's the women who end up breaking families and divorcing men, though there's no surprise because, you know, think about it, what a marriage is in America, right? It's a contract where the other side, as soon as you enter into that contract, is offered money by the government, you know, that you would, you know, essentially pay into for a woman to leave and break the contract, right? So it's really not that surprising that it is women that a lot of times, and now women figure out how to cheat and lie, and they're even better at it than men. And, you know, I see it all the time. I got to tell you, out of most of the breakups in the last couple of years, it is women who would have done something wrong, like getting, you know, cheating or just deciding, well, I don't want this anymore, you know, rather than men. In last year, up until even like a year and a half now, all of the victims of domestic violence that I personally know are also all men. Something to think about.
There were guys traveling, making videos. And he's the one that brought it up to me. He was like, God, Dad, you know, there's these guys that they're doing what you've been doing. They're traveling. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, they're passport bros. I'm like, huh, what? We're just coming off of the heels of COVID, the travel bug, and they want to get out. And, you know, and why not be that light post, if you will, that guiding light to try to help men where we can in this particular area.
On their website, the Worleys give suggestions of which countries are best suited for passport bros. Among their top 6 recommendations, 4 Asian countries make the list: Cambodia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand.
Okay, so I gotta tell you, Vietnam is a little stupid because Vietnam, that was actually also on top of my list. Vietnam simply does not have a legal way to stay in that country like forever if you wanted to. So Vietnam is off the list, unfortunately, for pretty much anybody who wants to be passport bro. So that's a little stupid. Now, I also suggest, and you guys, if you watch my videos before, you know that the traditional women who are traditional now and will continue to be traditional, right? Just because you marry a traditional woman doesn't mean she's going to stay traditional. As a matter of fact, a lot of these guys who come here marry these women and then ruin them into becoming American girls, and then they have to get divorced, right? So, but most of them are traditional and will stay traditional because they do not speak English. So they're not exposed to American culture as much, right? So a country like Philippines, yes, beautiful women, love it, but all of them are exposed to the whole culture, where women in countries like Cambodia, like Thailand, who there's plenty of them who don't speak English, as a matter of fact, majority. If you learn Thai, which is not easy, right? They are guarded by the culture, by the family culture around them because of the language. So this is also part of my course at themillionmanproject.com. And this is where I think you have to be much more careful than just like, well, sure, these countries have cute chicks, right?
If you're a guy looking for a woman that has traditional values, family values, you're going to find it in these areas.
I never made the decision, I'm going to be a passport bro. It's like, I was dealing with some problems in America, I wanted to leave. But every course and YouTuber out there seems to I just felt like I was on this hamster wheel that would never end. When I moved to Thailand, I'm able to relax more.
When he first arrived,
I do have to say that besides amazing women here, which we do have plenty of, the lifestyle here is so much better in general. I mean, first of all, healthcare here is amazing and much better. Pretty much no crime at all. Where in America, as anti-gun as I've always been, I ended up getting a license and carrying a gun everywhere I went. Absolutely hated that. And just in general, you know, I was also just in Kenya where it's quite high crime, and I hated that also. Here it's very, it's like just no crime. People are so kind and polite. It's a pleasure to open a door for a woman because you will get some feminine energy back. You will, you know, get a why back or a thank you in Thai or in English. Where in America they usually just get through and just entitled behavior of American women. So, and of course it's much more affordable. A lot of us can retire. Like I can retire. I just showed up here and I could retire already, right? I don't want to, but I could, right? It's a good peace of mind. The weather here is great. The beaches are great. You know, Bangkok, where I live, is just a bottomless pit of entertainment and goodness and deliciousness. Food is everywhere. The food and anything that you eat is sourced so much better and not raped by GMO technology like it is in America. You know, just everything is better. You can travel around like Bali, you know, which I'm not really a big fan of, but Bali and a lot of our own islands and Philippines and Vietnam and other beautiful countries are like $60 plane ticket away. So the life generally here is just so much. I can never think about ever going back. I just can't, you know.
Just arrived in Thailand, Paul was single. Though he wasn't looking for a serious relationship, he noticed he was getting a lot more attention on dating apps.
I think, you know.
So that is true. When you arrive here, you don't even swipe anymore. Like I still recommend not to use dating apps as much or at all, but my dating apps, whenever I have them on, are just, I can't even get through all of the likes that I get. Now, I do want to obviously mention that not all these women are looking for something positive or fair, right? A lot of them are gold diggers. A lot of them are going for foreigners, and all of them are straight up hookers who are just, looking for clients. So, but there's still plenty of amazing women. Like I think Thai Cupid and Thai Friendly here are decent apps where you can still get matched with women who literally just Facebook dating also. These women actually just want to have a good man in their life. So it is literally just the other way around. It's just like you almost never swipe yourself. You always have a queue of girls who already liked your profile. Oh wait, I clicked on the wrong thing.
I think in America, a lot of women want someone who's 6 feet tall, makes 6 figures. Here in Thailand, I think it's more chill, like it's more personal, it's more traditional.
Well, traditional doesn't always have anything to do with that. Well, yes, traditional women understand that what kind of man that they need a traditional man, and he's not, the height does not really matter, to them at all. Where American women don't even know what a good man is, and therefore they go in for whatever is easy on the eyes, which again, I understand and sometimes don't even blame them, because again, raised by single mothers, raised by simp fathers, so they don't know what it is. And here it is much more chill. He's right, and women are going and looking for something that's kind of have more substance, like they used to in America.
Eventually, he met his Thai girlfriend through a dating app, and they've been together for more than 2 years now.
Now, as you can see, as they're being filmed, they would not even kiss on camera. Would not be appropriate. That's correct. It looks like he actually picked a good one. Now, I'm assuming she speaks English, so not ideal, but I don't see any tattoos. So far so good.
I was like, man, this is the best woman I've ever met. She's always trusts me. She's like, you can do this. I believe in you. And sometimes that's just all you need. I never had the intention of being a passport bro, but I guess I am because I have a relationship now.
Yeah, so, he kind of fell into being a passport bro, but a real passport bro is someone, not that I'm very happy with him. He's great. It looks like he picked a good girl as well. But generally speaking, passport bros are the ones who intentionally do that. And this is why I've already made several videos. And even when I was a guest on other Red Pill channels, is one of the things that usually blows people's minds is that there are very few passport bros here in Thailand and many other countries, including Philippines, because a lot of these guys, they just kind of come here to visit, take a break, for some work assignments, and they realize that, oh my God, look at this, right? Even though a lot of times they fall into the wrong hands, we have plenty of Americanized women who are happy to take money from the simps that a lot of these guys come here, never change, and they continue simping, and they end up in really, really wrong relationships, and until it's too late, they're not even aware, no matter how much men like me tell them not to do that. But a lot of us came here with purpose, knowing what it is that we want. So there's a bit of a difference there.
But with the emphasis on traditional gender roles, critics say the passport bro movement is steeped in misogyny and anti-feminism.
Yeah, so the critics are basically Western women and simps. So let's not call them critics. Let's call them what they are. And obviously a little biased because we essentially don't want them. And we absolutely call out and shame simps in America and when they come here. Now, misogyny is also a stupid word because misogyny is when you hate all women, right? And we obviously don't. And we don't even hate American women. Like, we don't actively do anything. Like, we blah American women. If I could never see an American woman or an English woman in my life, that's it. Like, I don't want them harm or whatever. I literally wanted to get the fuck away from them as far as possible. That's not hate, and I obviously love a lot of Thai women and Southeast Asian women and African women. So the word misogyny is, irresponsible, but as always, modern women don't care about being responsible for what they say or what they do. So that's why this term is kind of made it out there. They needed 1 or 2 terms. That's one of them.
How do the women of Southeast Asia feel about the phenomenon.
Well, let's see what they picked, because if these are English-speaking Thai women or Filipinos or whatever, like I said, are they really that much different than American women? Most of the time, no. And a lot of times they get the same fate as American women who are here, which we don't want them. Or they're just being used, right? Because we don't see much of a value in them than just sex, because they're disagreeable. They're all of these things modern women are. So let's hear what they pick. You can easily tell by whether or not she speaks English, or they have to put the subtitles on it. So let's look at this. Commercial break, I guess.
In southern Philippines, a stone's throw from white sandy beaches, the city of Dumaguete saw more expat arrivals after the...
So I gotta say, that's one of the cities I was gonna visit. I ended up in Cebu City because Philippines is not as safe, and there are very few cities that are safe for foreigners, and this is one of them, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comment section, but I think this is where the previous president is from. And because he was like so tough on crime, right? He was very controversial. He started with his own city, so that city is actually quite safe.
After the pandemic. A few months ago, it became the new home for Alex Connolly. He moved from the San Francisco Bay Area in California. A full-time content...
Just so you know, I'm from San Francisco Bay Area as well. I'm from San Jose, California.
...creator, he's also looking for a relationship he couldn't find in the United States.
Do I consider myself a passport bro? Yes, with some level of reluctance, because I know that there's a stigma associated with that term. But dating did come up for me as a strong reason to spend more time in Southeast Asia. For me, it's not about the short time, it's not about the short hookup. There's tons of successful women in the West, and so they're just not getting as much benefit of dating the regular Joe that perhaps a woman in Southeast Asia, she may think, well, he's a basic guy, but you know what? He's an honest man. A lot of the Asian women in these countries are more open to traditional gender roles.
That's a very polite way of saying American women are boss chicks and I don't want a boss chick, So, okay. It was very polite.
What Alex describes is perhaps found in the home of Leah Buckingham, also a resident of Dumaguete. Leah is a stay-at-home mother of 2. She lives with her American husband, Gary.
Everyone deserves to be happy and feel love, I don't think you should be in a place or in a...
So I do have to say that different places do have different standards of how you dress. Here, it's quite conservative. Philippines are not as conservative. I was also in Kenya. It's like this dress, if I see that on a housewife here in Thailand, I'll be like, yeah, she's not a housewife. She looks like a hooker at the Nana Plaza here in Sukhumvit. But in Philippines, it's a little bit more progressive as far as dressing up. So this is actually quite an appropriate outfit. And this is a lot of stuff that guys don't know, right? Guys show up here in Thailand and see a girl dressed like that and go like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with it in the Philippines and America, but here, yeah, if a girl dresses in kind of a dress like this here in Thailand and goes out, that's a bit of a, if not red flag, definitely a yellow flag. And once again, in Philippines, women do speak English. And to me, that most of the time, if it's, again, not a red flag, it's a humongous yellow flag. And I just need to check a lot of other boxes for me to be like, okay, she speaks English, but she hasn't been really, she's immune. She's been vaccinated against the hoe culture. So, yeah.
Or in an environment where you don't feel belong and appreciated. So I think for them doing the movement to go abroad and find real women, I think they're doing the right thing.
I love it. I love how she says real women, but to me, they are real women. Not in terms of whether or not they have vaginas. This is not a trans conversation. Not in terms of being actual women, right? There's obviously real women everywhere. But as far as the context of dating, to me, that's a perfect term. Because I don't look at American women as like real women to me. I don't look at them as women, because to me, women are someone I can date, right? In terms, again, in the scope of a conversation of dating. So it's I love it. I love that's how she picked that. And the American women and Western women, you'll see they'll make videos about Southeast Asian women saying something like that, like, we're real women, you're just too poor and you just sucking money out of the which a lot of these girls do, by the way. But it is funny how it triggers American women, because they know they're losing more and more good men, either, again, to computer games and porn websites, or, just being passport bros. So I love that.
Gary and Leah have been together for about 6 years after meeting on a dating site.
One of the reasons why passport bros, prefer to date us, because they want to find a real woman that would respect them, that would let them to be the man that they should be, like to be the leader.
She should have her own channel. She is right on the money, right? It's, and look how happy they are. I mean, that's another thing, is like, people go like, look at this, they're slaves, right? There's uneducated girls who just slaves. Wow, what a slave. Look, she's got a child. She seems pretty happy with her man. She's got a big, beautiful house. She's on her own schedule. She can afford whatever, the shelter, the food, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, yes, what a slave. And I think a lot of times this a lot of Westerners in general, men or women, don't understand that these women love doing that. Like, they love serving men. They love being mothers. They love being homemakers. They love this because the life is easy for them. Everything's provided for them. They don't have to worry about all these things. And all they have to do is just be loving and kind to the men who provide for them. What a concept, right? But yeah, slaves, right? Slaves.
And most of us Filipina, we respect that. We're very family oriented, and also we're more feminine and more traditional, I would say.
The Philippines is another popular destination in Southeast Asia for passport bros.
Here's why you should leave America and go straight to Philippines. First off is rent. $300 a month is plenty.
This is Austin Abeta, 33 years old, from Colorado. A data analyst by trade, but on social media, he's built
dancing in a club and videotaping it and posting on social media with your girl. Again, not a passport bro. Why would you even take your traditional girl to a club? She wouldn't want to go. She wouldn't even have an outfit. So not a passport bro. Again, very important.
He's built a following as a passport bro influencer.
And it says here, everybody speaks English. That's a drawback, you idiot, but okay.
Right now, he's living in Manila.
There you go. I think I've seen his videos. Yeah. So look, a tattoo, cleavage, right? Just trying to get into the camera. These are not traditional women. And the fact that he is comfortable, first of all, the fact he doesn't even know what a traditional woman is. He picked, most of the time, these girls are hoes. They're sucking money out of these guys, which you don't see in these videos. They're paying for everything. They're paying for their purses. They're giving them alimony. This is essentially a subscription prostitution, what they're doing, which is, by the way, totally fine with me. I have no problems with that. It's just, don't lie to me and tell me you're a passport bro and really screw up the entire term for the rest of us. But none of us passport bros would never be with a girl like this, or even admit to it, right? And she says, don't need to learn a new language. You're a fucking lazy slob. That's why you should learn another language. If you want to live in a new culture and date somebody who is in that culture and have a, she has a family and all that stuff, you want to talk to them, right? Your child will be living in that culture, right? And you're like, oh, look at that, I'm too fucking lazy. That's the problem with these guys. They just come in here, they date this hoes, they want to have nothing to do, they don't want to learn the culture or the language, and they think that this is the way to go. No, thank you. This is not me.
Manila with his Filipino girlfriend, Jewel.
I do identify as a passport bro, but if the
Please don't, Austin, please don't. You're not. You're just a loser who ended up with a cheaper hooker than you would have in whatever, wherever.
Were to change into something else, I'm not married to it. Dating is always two adults consenting to be in a relationship together. It's never perfect. It's going to get messy, but
why would it get messy? See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's amazing that they actually don't mind saying this on camera. Relationships should not be messy. That's why you date a traditional woman. She knows what the model of a relationship is, and those are not messy. If you're with a girl where you have to have a messy relationship, like the ones with boob tattoos and cleavage who like to be on social media, then it's going to get messy, right? I mean, it's amazing how you just easily call these guys out up front. Like, I know exactly everything about their relationship, how it goes, and exactly about what kind of girl she is. But let's keep going. It just annoys the fuck out of me because dudes like him give men like me a bad name, you know?
I think for me, I 100% think every guy should experience it. Every woman should experience it, dating into different cultures.
Austin has more than 700,000 followers on TikTok and in.
That's the problem, right? This ratchet lifestyle of look at this, you know, I'm balling and stuff like that. That gets a lot of views, right? Because it's exciting. You know, a real passport bro doesn't even have anything to talk about because he's just having a regular life and doesn't want his wife on camera and bragging how everything's cheap. It's like, that's not the reason to come here, man. If you can't afford living in America, you're a fucking loser. You know, if only here you can ball. And then, by the way, when these guys come here, they're not trying to save. They're not trying to invest. They're not trying to start a business. They just spend and spend and spend on bottle service and whatever, yachts and all of that, private jets or whatever. They're being just as financially responsible losers who are not doing the right thing for their future families if they're ever going to have any. And but that gets a lot of views because that's exciting, right? But that is not what I would ever suggest anybody do. And it is, again, this is not Passport Bros.
And Instagram. His content has accrued tens of millions of views, plenty of love, and a lot of hate.
Here's what I learned being a passport bro. Being a single American guy in South America, I sometimes post stuff like that, or this, and my comments get crazy.
Yeah, showing your girlfriend's ass to everybody is just, what a traditional woman. What a traditional woman.
People get fucking mad. Step one, get a passport.
Passport bros like Austin have come under fire for their romantic escapades abroad. The emphasis on traditional gender roles leads detractors to say the movement is anti-feminist, as it implies women should occupy a subservient role to men.
They should. That's at least for anybody I would be interested in, and most of these guys would be interested in. By the way, in these relationships that you see, women are not that subservient. These women run these dudes' lives. They tell them, like, a lot of times, like in my building, I have a bunch of them. And a lot of times I'll be sitting outside, you know, like, you know, having like a little drink. I don't drink alcohol, but like a smoothie or whatever. So, and I will see these hosts come down with their tattoos and pick up a delivery. And it's like, wait a second, you're already living off of a foreigner. And, you know, he's already paying for everything. A lot of times they don't even have jobs, right? Because they're like, I don't want to have a job. The guy goes, well, sure, of course. Just keep, you know, doing what you're doing. You know, and they don't even cook or clean. This guy, like, I continuously see them ordering deliveries, and all those girls do is just pick them up downstairs and that's it, and bring them in. They don't even cook. So these are not good examples of submissive, subservient women, because they're not. They're running this guy's lives because these guys come here and they continue to simp. They don't know any better. So they find the same type of women as they would in America. They're just cheaper and prettier. But these women are still grabbing them by their balls, you know, sucking them dry out of money, and definitely running and ruining their lives at the same time.
People tend to equate women with, you know, nursing and homemaking and all of these.
Yeah, see, like you should not, like, these two women are the opposite of each other, right? This is nurturing a real family versus I'm dating a hooker.
Attributes, whereas men are the providers, are the ones who provide protection and resources in modern Western culture, right? A lot of women would probably be not happy about the prospect of going back to the norms that they seem so fond of.
So, by the way, let's talk about providing, right? You know, that guy with a Filipino wife and a child, he's providing for the family, right? For the roof over their heads for better education for the child and daycare, for a safer car, for a better neighborhood, for their retirement and education for the child. Where the other dude, right, he's just providing Louis Vuitton purses, maybe Mercedes, vacations and yachts and all of that stuff to his girlfriend, right? So providing is a very vague term as they use it here, as they really should have clarified that.
It's harmful, this passport bro movement that hold these beliefs, that women should be meek, subservient, and should tend to their needs. This passport bro movement puts kind of a racist and colonial dimension to this.
Racist. Oh, such a fucking dumb idiot. What does that have to do with race? I don't even understand. If anything, when you're dating interracially, aren't you by definition not a race? Okay, feminists always say the dumbest shit, but all right.
Do this because it kind of fulfills their expectations that, brown people should be servicing white people and brown countries should be at the service of white Western countries.
I honestly don't even know what to say about that. That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Servicing. Okay, all right.
Yet, gender roles are complex. It's simplistic to assume Asian women are unequal to men. For example,
women are not equal to men anywhere. 99.9% of the time. So anybody who thinks otherwise is just an idiot.
The Philippines ranks 25th out of 146 countries in gender equality, scoring better than Canada at 36 and almost 20 places above the United States at 43. Thailand ranks 65.
We Filipina, we know how to covert our role as a wife.
Well, I'm against gender equality because men, as we recently found out about the gender gap, right? Men work harder, more dangerous jobs, stay on the job longer every week, don't get pregnant and have to take, whatever sabbatical. So, and on top of that, men are responsible. Majority of the civilization around us was built and still maintained mainly by men. So there shouldn't be any equality until, and by the way, the draft, right? Where are all Ukrainian women right now? Sipping tea with their host families, right? Where their husbands, brothers, fathers, and so forth, and even sons are dying in the endless war. Yeah, we're not equal. As a matter of fact, ladies, you got way better deal than us in some cases, right? Just ask any of the Ukrainian men who are, not dead.
As a wife, and we let our men to lead us in our household, but some Western women, they think that's too old-fashioned. Women should pursue their career and all that. And they even said that we are just playing the role because we want to get out the poverty, but the fact is...
Yeah, the thing is, Americans just don't understand, because Americans are so fucking uneducated, especially about other countries. I've seen way more homeless people and poverty in Oakland, California, in Houston, Texas, in San Francisco than I've ever seen here in Thailand, including in provinces. I don't think people understand that most of these people have healthcare. Most of these people have families, because this is a family-oriented culture that will always shelter them. They always have food, that's for sure, and a free healthcare. So it's what poverty? What poverty? Just because these women don't have Mercedes Benzes and Louis Vuitton purses doesn't make them, poor. And a lot of times I've always said this, I wish my money would play a bigger role in how these women look at me, because, my money means that I've been a hardworking guy, educated guy, persevered, didn't, decide I'm going to use drugs or alcohol or whatever, always been kind of a straight arrow. And the money that I make is actually a indicator of what kind of character I have. But a lot of times, because a lot of these women don't give a shit about my money, because again, they're not poor. They don't believe they're poor. They have everything that they want, that they actually look at my money way less than Western women would. So this whole notion how these women poor and they want to be. I mean, I was just in Kenya, by the way, and those women are fucking poor. A lot of them couldn't even get to the date with me because they have no money to get there even on a bus, and they still acted like, I don't really need you. So this whole notion how these poor women, and it's just such a stupid trailer trash mentality of Americans who don't understand that other cultures are different than American culture. And like I said, go walk around any major city in America. You have way more disgusting homeless a population than we have here. I literally think probably I've seen maybe 20 homeless people in 2 years here in Thailand, in 2 years, where I could just walk down the street 1 block, San Francisco, Oakland, Houston, or whatever, and see just as many. So just so stupid.
Fact is, we are raised like this. That's our tradition. That's our culture,
ความเป็นชาวเอเชียอย่างชาวหญิง
That's Thai that I'm learning.
ไทยมันถูกขัดเกลามันถูกหล่อหลอมมาโดยจะรู้ตัวหรือไม่รู้ตัวก็ตามว่าการเทคแคร์การดูแลเอาใจใส่คนรักมันเกิดขึ้นพร้อมกับความรักหรือความผูกพันหรือว่าการชื่นชอบ
Another criticism of passport bros says the men resort to finding love overseas because they're not good enough for the women back home.
These guys.
That is true. I always said that I was just, in the last 5 years, I was no longer a high value man that I used to be, because the value determined by the market, and the market, the buyers are women, right? So if women don't see value in you, well, you don't have any. And I used to have value because my education, my income, the fact that I don't drink or smoke or do drugs, the fact that I'm well traveled, the fact that I come from a good family, the fact that I have a good track record, they have the fact that I'm secure with my finances. All of those things mattered to women, and that's where my value came out of, right? But once women realized or decided that they don't give a shit about any of that, just as long as you're like tall dude and maybe a couple tattoos, that's all they want, then all of a sudden men like me lost value. And hey, listen, I'm not even complaining about it. That's just, it is what it is. And that's why I decided to leave, because women in America don't see value in men like me. And like I said, it's not something to complain about. It's just a reality. You have to accept it and then say, okay, but there are women still out there who want a man who's educated and a good provider and a good man, and all of those things. Then you just go to a place where it is still appreciated, right? So it's just that simple. And yes, I agree. Men are just no longer good enough for all these princesses who have been essentially simped for the last several years, and that's why I blame men for creating this problem.
These guys sort of give up on themselves in terms of what success they're going to have here in America. And they are like, okay, I'm not even going to put the effort in. It's almost like they think
we don't give up on ourselves. We actually don't give up on ourselves. That's why we move, because we know our value is valued somewhere else. We give up on the women and the culture. I think I know what she meant, but I think she phrased it like literally the opposite of what she meant.
They think they're going to take a magic pill and everything's going to change by going to a different country and meeting a woman there.
So it is true that, and this is part of my course at the millionmanproject.com, that if you bring yourself who, is fat, doesn't know how to talk to women, have bad habits, and most importantly, a simp, you're going to end up in the same type of relationship as you were there. Now, there is still an upgrade, because as you can see, when those losers end up with somewhat better looking women that they don't have to pay as much money for, right? Not the relationship I would want to be in, but generally speaking, those losers couldn't even get that, or afford, I should say, that in America. So there's an upgrade right away. I also do have to say that here, you can pay for services, and it will cost you a lot of times if you want to have a, it will literally cost you less than taking a girl out on a proper date. So, the problem with sex here is completely solved. It's just like, it's not a problem. So one way or another. So, but yes, this is the problem that I see with a lot of guys who come here, and they're just continue being losers here. But even these losers do better here than they would otherwise in America.
Just as the Passport Bro movement grew through social media, there's now a counter movement disparaging the men who choose this lifestyle.
When you pay attention to the Passport Bros, like they're getting women from like the DR, Colombia,
Yes.
The Philippines, Thailand, like women that can speak very little English, women that don't have
And- and
education, women that need them.
So first of all, nobody cares about your education. You know, a man who wants an educated woman doesn't know what a traditional woman is. Education has nothing to do with her ability to be a good wife. But most importantly, unfortunately, these guys only end up with women who speak English. I like women who speak very little English, and I'm learning Thai for that because they are the ones who are protected. And I already told you guys why. So this is what happens with American women who are extremely triggered and really jealous. Like I just sense so much jealousy and yet uneducated. See, when you take somebody who has opinions and yet, you know, is dumb and uneducated together, it just becomes a boiling pot of poison, right?
But here is where these critics are getting pushback. Some from women in Southeast Asia themselves.
Filipinos are depicted as desperate, submissive, and at a man's beck and call.
Well, submissive is a good thing.
Do you have any clue how insulting that is?
Submissive is not insulting, again.
By suggesting that Asian women are easier targets for Western men, there is an undertone of racism. The implication being that Asian women are less than compared to Western women.
A woman commented, if you worked harder, you could get a first world queen. And it's just like, holy the same sort of stereotypical nature to say like all Filipino women are X is to say all.
Well, first of all, we don't want queens and princesses. You guys can stay in America and yeah, but we don't want queens.
American men dating in the Philippines are X.
I grew up here in the Philippines. In this region, like we have more women living in poverty than men, more women working in the informal sector, and more women carrying the burden of care work or like work at home. And often, you know, like they don't have a choice in terms of like these expectations of them. But also understand that, you know, women also still have agency, and women are or should be able to make decisions based on what they think is best, based on kind of their personal situations. I think it's so important for us not to see women as victims.
Right. So why do you see women as victims, especially women who found happiness in being in relationships?
Pam has dated a few passport bros in Bangkok. She's looking for a committed relationship and prefers dating foreigners to local men.
Yeah, that's another problem with some of the women here, that they prefer dating foreigners. I'm usually very careful when a girl says that, because usually that means I like money. I like someone who can buy me shit, right? There are some exceptions. There are some women who, especially dark-skinned women, which are not considered to be like under the same standard of beauty. It's like the whiter the skin here. The number of services here that will whiten your skin for a woman is like ridiculous. It's like a mall here would have an entire floor dedicated to that. So there are many Thai men who don't find, you know, dark-skinned women as attractive, where as foreigners, definitely me, believe, like I see darker skinned women more attractive. So if that's the reason when a Thai girl wants to date a foreigner, then it's a good reason. But a lot of times, you know the reason.
The kind of chemistry is different when I talk to foreigners. When I was living abroad, I just felt like, yeah, talking to like people in different countries, like I felt more like openness.
Overseas.
Yeah, so to me, unlikely I would date a girl like that. Her English is way too good. She's dated too many foreigners. They probably already damaged her. She already probably is used to be the queen, right? Too many simps, bought her too many shit. brought her to too many countries, given her too much money, and essentially she's most likely already an American girl. There are exceptions, and she could be one, so I'm not particularly talking about her in particular, but women like her, I usually stay away from. I'd rather meet a girl who's like from a province, doesn't speak English. To me, I find them better quality of potentially being a wife material.
Overseas educated and a professional.
Overseas educated. Well, that's it for me then. Yes, that is the worst. Overseas educated. That's exactly what we passport bros are getting away from.
Public relations, Pam holds dual degrees in arts and media. She does not fit the stereotype of the uneducated, docile figure that critics paint.
Yes, spend her best years getting education so she can make more money, right? Yeah, she definitely does not fit. Yeah, as I already told you. Yeah, what happened here?
I think I am quite independent as well compared to.
He's already. Wow. I call it. Yeah, that's another thing we don't want: independent women. Because if you're independent, you don't need anybody, right? Okay, off you go back to the streets.
Other Asian girls, but I don't think I'm super different from regular Thai ladies. Asian women these days, we also portray sophisticated and independent. We become more self-reliant, and I think we won't look for the guys that we meet on dating apps and we know that, oh, he just wants a casual date, casual fun. It depends, like we can choose as well.
The passport bro move.
Yeah, a lot of these girls can't choose, and that's why she's in her, I'm assuming, 30s and single, which here is a problem, right? And yeah, what you said about, oh, we're just as same as the regular Thai women. No, I don't even consider women like her as Thai women. She's just an Americanized girl living in Thailand, but her culture is no longer Thai culture, you know?
Bro movement has been demonized by some people, praised by others, and sometimes there is basis, but as you know, nothing is black or white completely. When a man comes to a country where, passport bros go to, and he makes the women think he's looking for love.
Yeah, look at this guy. I mean, this is a problem. Like this guy on the right, he's just dressed like a fucking 11-year-old boy in like fucking gray t-shirt. I bet it's hot here all the time, so you usually see sweat on these dudes, loose like fucking shorts and sandals. He's balding. He's not doing anything about it. He's not like shaving his head to look good. He didn't get, hair transplants to get the hair back or whatever. He just doesn't give a fuck. So these guys are not going to find good women here. And when they do, they might be traditional women, but a lot of times I see guys like this with women, either that they buy and they look like, that tattooed Filipino girl over there, that's also an attention whore, or just really subpar women, but they probably could have just found back in America anyway.
Love, he's looking for marriage. When what he really wants is to have a good time, then that is exploitative for sure. But in the end, we don't know what's going on in their hearts and minds.
I wouldn't say that all passport bros come here for real love or for genuine love. I'm sure there are some that come here for bad intention. Those are really the type of foreigner that Filipina should avoid because they don't deserve the traditional Filipina.
Man, this girl is smart. A lot of these foreigners don't deserve a traditional girl, not just Filipino, Thai, whatever. A lot of losers who come here, they're just not up to par. That guy was wearing, again, a lot of these dudes come over here and, they just wear this fucking 7-year-old boy clothes and think that that's attractive. They're out of shape. They have bellies. They're balding. I'm balding too, but, as you guys probably noticed, if you watch me on my previous channel, I changed a hairstyle to look a little bit better as I'm balding. I've already had one hair transplant surgery. I'm actually scheduled for another one next month because I want to bring some of the hair back. I want to look good. I play soccer. I'm in shape. I dress well, but these losers, they don't want to. So yeah, they don't deserve good traditional women. Just because you have a pair of balls and white skin and extra buck on your bank account. You don't deserve this traditional women. Traditional women know what a traditional man is, and those losers ain't it.
But even some passport bros admit there is a dark side to their movement, especially in Southeast Asia, a region with a long history of sex tourism.
Oh no. To me, it's one of the best parts because it keeps women honest, right? It's it basically it takes, like, first of all, by the way, I think prostitution should be legal everywhere, right? In some countries it's illegal, but so because it keeps women honest and it takes away their sort of powers of pussy, as I call it, right? So they can no longer hold you hostage for sex, right? So here, sex is not something that is hard to get or expensive. So, and I mean in Southeast Asia and in South America, when I say here, I don't mean specifically just Thailand, right? So women here don't really have that power, Oh, you want me to take you out 2-3 times, spend money on your dinner and your taxi home or wherever, Uber home, and buy you drinks or whatever. And after that, you're not that kind of girl if you don't want to go to my place. No problem. Yeah. Goodbye, because within 30 minutes, I will have somebody in my bedroom. So I love that. And so it's not a dark side. Now, some guys do make it into not a good place, but not that many. But let's see what they have to say. Another commercial break, I guess.
There's something romantic about falling in love with a foreigner. Two people brought together by destiny, despite distance and cultural differences. At least, that was the dream of Joanna Ankler, a single mother of 3 in the Philippines. Joanna is looking for an AFAM. AFAM is an acronym for A Foreigner Around Manila, slang.
Yeah, so, single mothers are going to be single mothers everywhere. The problem is, and, we've beat this dead horse, too many times, is, getting in a relationship with someone who will never have you as her number one priority, right? Because her kids are, unless she's a horrible mother, is just never a good place to be for someone who doesn't have kids and makes her number priority. Now, if you're a single father and she's a single mother and you also have same type of custody of your kids as she does, then yes, I always recommend those are the people for each other. But when you are never going to be number one and then you take on someone else's kids, right? A lot of times you're not allowed to discipline them, but yet they live in your house on your dime. A lot of times you have to deal with the ex-husband or the baby daddy. These, again, if you're a single guy who doesn't have kids, it doesn't work no matter which country you come to. So, and I feel sorry for, I don't feel sorry for single mothers in America as much, even though some do end up single, not because of their fault. Here in Southeast Asia and, South America and Africa, unfortunately, single mothers a lot of times are kind of more victims of that. Though, again, I do not ever want to take responsibility off the table for a lot of them who spread their legs for men who will dump them, right? So let's see where this one goes.
Slang for a typically Western male. To many Filipinas, dating or marrying an AFAM is not an idea so foreign.
Foreigner, even they walk wearing a slipper in an ordinary church, something like they attract, some ladies, their looks. I'm looking a foreigner. I'm looking that he is my best friend, real love, that can spend together, the last of our life.
Last year,
I feel bad for women like her because, she genuinely is looking for love, right? But again, single mother, where do you go with that?
Anna met a Finnish man on a dating site. They'd been talking for nearly 2 months when he asked her to join him on a trip to Boracay, a resort island in central Philippines.
These girls, I tell them this all the time here in Thailand, listen, don't try to date a foreigner who doesn't live here. You know what I mean? That will never work. I shouldn't say never. That does work sometimes. Like 99% of the time, it just never works. You know, don't waste your time. There's plenty of foreigners here. Try to concentrate on them, and don't shut yourself out of local guys either. Don't tell me that all Thai men are bad men. That's fucking stupid. There are plenty. I have plenty of Thai friends who are male, who are good men, you know? So don't tell me all of that bullshit. Oh, I can only be a foreigner. I can be a local guy. This is just so stupid. But I always tell them, don't date men who are. And look, in this case, if this man was interested in her, you know, why wouldn't he come to her city where she lives, right? Get to know where she grew up, meet her friends, meet her family, see where she works, where she shops and stuff like that. He still wanted to make this kind of a fun vacation where a girl will join him on it. This already smells so bad. Ugh.
Spend Christmas and New Year in Boracay. I feel it that he is really, he loved me also, and his intention is, you know, to get to know more me and going to a, you know, serious more, or maybe married someday.
That future crumbled after his vacation had ended.
Exactly what I said. Exactly. It looked like immediately I've said that, right? This guy just wanted what it literally, there's a term for that, because this happens all the time. And these women get fooled into it every goddamn fucking time. It's called holiday girlfriend. She did exactly, went on a holiday, wasn't really interested in going to a holiday where she lives, probably not the vacation area. He wanted beaches and all that stuff. And he just wanted the girl to fuck for a few days or a few weeks, right? And these women fall for it. Like, you know, and sometimes I just don't feel sorry for them, because I will literally tell some of the women here, don't do it. This is going to end up badly. And they still do it. You know,
he returned to Finland, and she found out that he'd been in a relationship with another woman there.
Oh no, who would have thought? Like, oh man, if I had $1 for every time I've heard a story like this, oh my goodness, I could have retired twice.
This love story gone awry points to a darker side of the Passport Bro movement. Many of their preferred destination countries, like the Philippines and Thailand, have a long history of sex tourism and exploitation.
Poorer countries have been sexually exploited for so many years, not just now. Ours, Spanish, the friars, etc. The Filipinos have been sexually exploited. This idea about sexual exploitation is not limited to passport bros. But
let me say something here, because I live here and I know way better than it looks like any of these people in the documentary. Now, yes, let's just set sex trafficking aside, right? That's a horrible crime. I think anybody who's involved in it should be fucking hung in a fucking public square. That's disgusting, and these people should not be on this planet. But I have to tell you, a lot of these girls choosing to go on the streets and doing this. There are plenty of jobs here. There are plenty of jobs here that will give you enough money to live on. That's why there's pretty much no homeless people here. But these women are choosing something different, because they get paid about 10 to 20 to 30 times more than if they had a regular job, right? But the regular job means they would have to work on a night market with, you know, hot food and the heat and sweat, and work, you know, 5-6 hours a day, 12-hour shifts and all that stuff. And they would only be able to afford a small, you know, room and maybe a motorbike. And it's much faster and easier money if they're going to go out and make money on the streets. A lot of these women make a conscious decision to do that when there are plenty of jobs out there. In Kenya, for example, it's different because there are no jobs. But here, a lot of these women are choosing it. I also don't want to sort of undermine the women who have been trafficked. Again, disgusting and horrible and unacceptable. And women who are sometimes forced when there's some, you know, sickness in a family and they just can't make enough money to live on and, you know, provide for the healthcare, even though a lot of these countries do have free healthcare or extremely cheap healthcare for everyone. So let's just be honest. And then I just want to mention that I consider most American women some sort of type of prostitutes because, and again, they're not in need for Medicare, medication and food. They're in need of Mercedes and Louis Vuitton purses. But nevertheless, majority of single women are looking for transactional relationships, and a lot of times they don't hide it. And so I would argue, and this is why I got kicked out of Reddit, out of all places, that majority of American women nowadays are a type of a prostitute. If you define a prostitute as someone who requires some sort of a compensation for the time spent with her as a girl.
But of course, in any movement, you always find the ones that take advantage.
I think those are very fair criticisms, and men do that. Passport bros, there's a lot of guys coming over who are, they just want quick hookups. They just want to get laid as much.
This guy's a fucking idiot. Again, if you are just looking here for a quick hookup, which is okay, which is fine. By the way, I have no problems with that. Whether you pay for it or not pay for it, we're all adults, right? But you're not a passport bro, you fucking idiot, if you're coming here for a quick hookup. You're not.
As much as possible, and they'll lie to women to do it. They'll lie and say, oh, we're in love, we should get married and lead these girls on. And I think it's horrible it does happen. But I do not think the vast majority...
Kind of like your girlfriend's lying to you, right? That she's in love. Try stopping making payments or taking her to lavish vacations, dude. We'll see.
Have not been that way.
This whole phenomenon of Western men coming to Southeast Asian, like the Philippines, looking for wives, it's not a new phenomenon. Before the passport bro, you had the femme, you had the dirty old man, you had the mail order bride orders, you had the sexpat. But we have to recognize women's agency. And if they're consenting into certain relationships or even transactions, then we have to respect that.
That's the first smart thing that she said, and I agree with that. Let's respect women's choices, whether they're good or bad. And why is she in this documentary if she believes that, right? Because it sounds like she didn't want to respect any of the, passport bro girlfriends or sex pet girlfriends or hookers or whatever choices. But now all of a sudden she does. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I respect American women's choices of not wanting men like me anymore. I don't know if respect is just accept, maybe is a better word, right? Because we don't need to respect anything. We just need to accept it. I've accepted it. As soon as I did, I bought my ticket, got the fuck out of there, and never really want to come back.
Pattaya, Patpong. These locales.
Just so you know, Pattaya is the city here, about 2 hours south of Bangkok. I don't even want to be friends with men who live there, and I would never date a girl who's ever lived there. That is a shithole. That's literally all about sex tourism. Like that dude that you saw that I've been kind of quite harsh on, that's the type of dudes who live there, and his girlfriend is the type of girl that, and I know she's Filipino, but this is the type of couples, dudes who live there. Most of the news of foreigners getting into fights, disrespecting local culture, getting into being either victims or creating scams, problems, with other locals, problems with women. A lot of it comes from Pattaya, and then there's also Phuket, right? But Pattaya, for such a small city, it is, it's fun to be there. By the way, it's fun to be there, but it's like, I want to have nothing to do with people who live there. And I actually have only been there twice, and I never want to go back.
In Thailand have become synonymous with the sex industry. There are an estimated 300,000 sex workers in Thailand.
I think there's way more in America, as I mentioned.
An average sex worker enters the industry at the age of 19. Each year, Thailand welcomes between 800,000 and 2 million sex tourists. Sex tourism brings in, by some estimates, over $6 billion for the country, and much of the industry is driven by poverty.
Let me also mention that a lot of the sex tourists are from India and China, not just America.
ทำให้ เซ็กทัวริซึมค่อนข้างเฟื่องฟูนะครับยกตัวอย่างเช่นพัดพงพัทยาสิ่งเหล่านี้เนี่ย
He even tells you how to pronounce Pattaya, and yet the makers of this documentary couldn't get that right. They don't seem to get a lot of facts right in this documentary.
เติบโตขึ้นมาจากบรรดาทหารอเมริกันเริ่มเข้ามาขณะเดียวกันมันมีอีกอาชีพหนึ่งที่เรียกว่าเมียเช่าคือพัฒนาการของการขายบริการทางเพศอะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะครับก็มันก็เกิดขึ้นมาเหมือนแบบ
rented lover or rented, what do you say, rented wife? I call them subscription prostitutes, but that's a nicer way to say it. Thai people are so nice. They put everything in much nicer way.
เป็นแฟนกับเธอฉันจะเป็นคู่รักเป็นเมียเธอแล้วเธอก็ให้เงินฉันจะดูแลเธอประหนึ่งเมีย
Yeah, in America or in other Western countries, it's called being a sugar baby, right? So essentially, subscription prostitute.
ที่ดีเลยเมียแบบในอุดมคติชายเป็นใหญ่เลยมันเกิดความไม่มั่นคงทางเศรษฐกิจตอนนั้นเมื่อทหารอเมริกันกลับไปเขาเกิดภาวะยากจนทันทีเมื่อมีประเทศที่มีพลเมืองบางประเทศนี่ที่ค่อนข้างที่จะถูกมองว่ารวยกว่าไม่รวยกว่าแต่มาจากประเทศโลกที่1หรือประเทศที่พัฒนาแล้วเนี่ยมันจึงทำให้ในไทยในฟิลิปปินส์บ้างเนี่ยรู้สึกว่ามันพึ่งพาได้มันสามารถทำให้รวยได้มันเข้ากันได้ดีกับการเคลื่อนไหวหรือปรากฏการณ์นี้ครับ
There are concerns that under the veneer of social media,
it's very interesting to hear a local person here in Thailand, specifically a man, talking about it.
Likes and hashtags, the passport bro is just the new name for a sex tourist.
That's fucking bullshit. I disagree with that. I mean, it has nothing to do with it. We're looking for wives. We're not looking for prostitutes, you know?
เท่ากับpassport bros เนี่ยนะครับก็มันคล้ายๆคือการถึงการที่สยบยอมหรือยอมรับสถานะทางเพศของตนเองที่เป็นผู้หญิงแล้วก็สถานะของเป็นพลเมืองประเทศที่กำลังพัฒนา
He called Thailand, his own country, third world country. Thailand is not a third world country. It's a developing country. As a matter of fact, I can tell you, Bangkok is a much more developed and better city to live in terms of, lack of crime and healthcare than most American cities. So I disagree with him. I think he needs to give his country, bigger credit than this.
พัฒนาประเทศโลกที่3อยู่อย่างไทยกับผู้ชายที่จะเข้ามาที่เป็นผู้ชายนะครับในโลกชายเป็นใหญ่และมาจากประเทศโลกที่1ประเทศที่พัฒนาแล้วมันมีสถานะที่มันเหลื่อมล้ำตรงนี้อยู่
While Austin says he doesn't belong to that side of the passport bro spectrum, it has nonetheless
he does. He literally is part of it.
Affected him. By dating Austin, his girlfriend Jewel feels unfairly tarred by these stereotypes.
Jewel doesn't want to go live in America, and it's because women comment on our posts that she's a prostitute.
She is a prostitute. She is.
Comment that she's trying to escape poverty. That's the only reason she's with me. And you talk to her. She's educated. She speaks English great. And if she was white,
she speaks English well.
This wouldn't happen.
And here is another side to the passport bro phenomenon. The idea of women's agency. Having dated some of them in Bangkok, Pam thinks it's women who control the game.
This is where delusion, she's a Thai woman who has now been westernized so much that the delusion bug has now infected her, right? Women control the game. How delusional you have to say that here in Bangkok? You have to be completely out of touch with reality. And if women would have controlled the game, she wouldn't be in this documentary. She would be taking care of her child with her foreign husband, right? But she's not.
Yeah, so for me, I don't think passport bro is intimidating or dominating a movement at all. But us as Asian women, we can protect ourselves from like being mistreated by them, or
she shouldn't be speaking for Thai women. She's not really Thai anymore. But also, unfortunately, that's not true. A lot of Western men who come here do take advantage of these women. And I already told you how.
somehow we have like equal right to choose the proper relationship for us. I think it just depends on the two people in the relationships, like they are on the same page, if they share the common goal.
ถ้าทุกคนสามารถมีตัวเลือกที่เหมาะสมนะครับยิ่งเยอะก็ยิ่งเป็นสิทธิ์ของเขาเพราะฉะนั้นการที่เขาจะใช้สิทธิ์เหล่านี้ในการที่จะมาหาคนที่ใช่จริงๆผมมองว่าเป็นเรื่องที่ดีนะครับไม่ใช่เรื่องที่แย่เลยแม้ว่าในมุมมองในอดีตเราจะมองว่าแบบการที่ต่างชาติจะมาหาแฟนคนไทยจะต้องเป็นคนระดับเวิร์กเกอร์บ้างคือผมมองว่ามันเป็นสิทธิ์ของเขาที่เขาต้องการในสิ่งที่เขาขาดผู้หญิงไทยหลายคนรอบตัวผมนะครับโดยเฉพาะเพื่อนผมเนี่ยเขาไม่ได้สนใจผู้ชายไทยด้วยซ้ำส่วนใหญ่จะสนใจต่างชาติมากกว่าไม่ว่าจะเป็นทางยุโรปนะครับทางอเมริกาหรือว่าแม้กระทั่งหนุ่มจีนหนุ่มไต้หวันเดี๋ยวนี้ก็เป็นที่สนใจของเพื่อนผมเหมือนกันสาเหตุหลักเขามองว่าเขาไม่ได้ขาดเหมือนกับเขาไม่ได้แบบขาดดุลอะไรกับการที่เขาได้ลองเรียนรู้วัฒนธรรมอื่นๆครับ
Yeah, well, we already addressed this, right? Women who are only dating foreigners. Like I said, I understand in some cases, maybe even physical attraction, but a lot of times, unfortunately, when a girl says, I only date foreigners, it usually means one thing.
Despite her relationship scars, Joanna still holds out hope of meeting her foreign Prince Charming. Since her relationship with her Finnish paramour ended, Joanna has been open to dating other men. None have worked out so far.
My advice is you need to be more careful getting to know that guy. Don't give your trust all. That's the best thing all girls to do. It's a big learn to me. Love yourself first and know your worth. So my past
I agreed with her until like you know your worth. I mean, that's the thing. How can you know your worth? You know what I mean? And can you accept your worth? There are very people who accept their worth. I accepted my worth, which is nothing in America. I accepted it and I moved on where I have a lot of worth, just like I used to have in America. But a lot of women, especially by getting on Instagram and dating apps and getting all the simps to simp for them, like exaggerate their own worth because they think that all of this is real, what they're seeing, right? Or at least from the men who they wouldn't really actually want to date. They still think that these are options. These are, and so this is probably one of the biggest problems is women overestimate their worth. And that's why this mismatch is happening right now.
As relationship on my Finland boyfriend, it's not really break my heart. Maybe a small part. But I told you, I'm not a cheap Filipina. I'm not easy to get.
I do feel sorry for her. She sounds like actually a good girl, and I know some women here in Thailand who are genuinely good women, and they got too trusting for the shitty foreigners who came here, and some Thai men as well. And essentially it kind of breaks their hearts. And then by the time they meet someone like me who does have good intentions, they're already broken. They're already, demanding. They're already like westernized, but also like just heartbroken. And now you kind of have to sell them the concept of a happy relationship before you can say, well, but also consider me as that person who can give it to you, right? So it actually, all of these losers and really assholes who took advantage of these women made it hard for everybody, and including them. All of these dudes who are in their 20s, they're going to get to the point where they will want families, right? And they'll be like, well, what the fuck happened to all these women? Well, you ruined them. I had a few men who asked me to mentor them when they came here to Thailand, and I was unable to help all four of them. They were such pathetic simps and were already sucked into this horrible personalities of simping for women and being so desperate and just not having anything to offer that I couldn't stop. I couldn't even red pill them. I couldn't even show them they need to improve themselves. And this is the type of women you should be going for. And stop putting money, into, stop showering these women with money. Like, offer yourself as an individual, make a joke, dress better, stop being fat, fucking ugly fuck, so they can be physically attracted to you. I just couldn't, dude. There's one guy who was here and he kept eating KFC and drinking 7 or 8 Cokes a day. And I'm like, dude, I can see you're getting fat. Like, you were already not skinny and now you're getting fat. And this guy came over here to get a perfect tan. He believes he deserves a perfect tan, girl, right? I'm like, dude, even an average girl wouldn't want you. You're a fat, lazy fuck. Like, you need to improve yourself. How do you, like, a 5 won't go for you and you want a 10. And so these guys also are just so far gone. And this is what my channel is all about, to hopefully bring some of them back and realize that they need to self-improve, because that will get them better quality women.
The Passport Bro movement, having spawned on the internet, might eventually go the way online trends go and fade from relevance. But beneath it, there's a more worrying shift developing, a global pushback against feminism.
Guilty. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what this channel is about. Anti-feminism, pro-red pill, but also men get their shit together channel. Oh, commercial break again. It's about 15 minutes left in the actual series.
Prometheus said he was a feminist for many years. The movement, in its early days, resonated with his belief in equality.
I agree. I've also been a feminist for most of my life, because I wanted equal rights for women. I just didn't know that they were going to get the equal rights and then push men into second-class citizens. So joke's on me, I guess.
But somewhere along the line, it became toxic to him.
My views of it started to change when I started to see feminism promotes double standards. Women can have their expectation. They can say, I want a guy with a 6-pack. I want a guy with 6 figures. I want a guy who drives a Maserati, who has a big home. If a man says, I prefer a woman that's sort of on the fit side, a little slender, he's a sexist. How dare he say that he wants her to be thin?
I dare all the time. I don't want tattoos on women. I don't want kids. I don't want her to be fat. I want her to go to the gym, and if she's skinny already, I want her to dress well. I want her to be soft-spoken. I want her to be submissive. There's nothing wrong with it. Everybody should say that.
Prometheus is far from alone in this view. There is a global pushback against feminism. It coincides with the surge of men's rights activism and hyper-masculine movements, broadly known as the manosphere. The manosphere is a network of online communities with a belief that men's rights have been neglected, usually laying the blame on feminism.
That's true. I do believe that. However, I also believe it's men themselves who gave up on these rights and help women to push them into second-class citizens. So again, I like people taking responsibilities for their actions. And of course, I believe women should do that, but so should men.
One of the most notorious figures of the movement is Andrew Tate, who became famous for anti-feminist rhetoric. Andrew Tate and his brother have been charged with sexual assault and human trafficking in Romania.
Yeah, so Andrew Tate, it's kind of weird because the guy is a huge piece of shit as a human being, right? And I disagree with pretty much everything he ever said outside of dating. But when it comes to dating, I have to say that I'd say 60 to 70% of what I've heard him say, right? He says a lot of things, so I can't just catch everything, is right on the money. The other 30 to maybe 40%, I disagree. And as I disagree with just generally red pill community, and especially of that, he still, I believe, treats women as hookers. I think he does not specifically promote traditional women in terms of that's the type of women to marry. It feels like women who date him are essentially do it so for money, and he does treat them a little bit more like property. And he puts too much effort on money. And but at the same time, I also do know that he's big on self-improvement. It's just most of the clips of his that make it to social media that essentially everybody gets to watch are of about women rather than men. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of calling the anybody a sex offender or whatever until they're convicted in the court. So I'm going to wait for that. So far, it does seem like his process has been a little bit too long for him to be charged in the first place and then go to court. I usually am kind of skeptical when things go like that long. It's almost like they're trying too hard to find something. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if all of this is true either, right? So let's see. But I never like that, to take the allegations of what women say and take it as a fact. As a matter of fact, I never do.
Within the manosphere exist groups like MGTOW, or men going their own way, men who want nothing to do with women. Then there is the red
So let's
pill.
talk about men going on their own way. So I actually have one of my best friends is that he basically just, there are two of them. One is who basically decided, I just don't want women. I just, you know what I mean? I have a business. I have some hobbies. I have some self-improvement to do. I have friends and a family and all that stuff. I want to travel. So I don't need sex. I got Pornhub. I'm good, And another friend of mine who decided, okay, yeah, also I don't want to deal with women. I would just pay them, right? So he hires sugar babies and all of that. And both of them essentially just want to have nothing to do with women anymore. So I guess I'm also in that category. Like I don't want anything to do with American women, right? Western women. And that's why I moved. So, but men going their own ways is kind of sad because these are the men who cannot become passport bros, right? They cannot escape physically America and they're kind of stuck there and they still choose nothing over women, which is saying something.
Red pill. Those who believe society privileges women and suppresses men. The name is from The Matrix, a 1999 science fiction film where a red pill reveals the truth about the world. Another faction are
It is so hard to red pill men, as I told you. The men who even ask me for help, right? Because I kind of provide those services. I could not red pill them. They were just so far gone. They were just so fucking simpy and such losers who didn't really want to improve themselves, not in their mentality, not in their physical appearance, not the way they dressed, not the way they worked. It's just nothing. They just wanted to buy women. They believed they deserved the best. One of them ended up marrying the very first girl who was nice to him, and immediately threw so much money, he just drowned her and her family in money and now married her. It's just, I just can't stop these guys. And the red pill movement is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of men because they're just so far fucking gone into being simps. It's sad.
Short for involuntary celibates. These are men who can't find sexual partners and air their often hateful and aggressive frustrations online.
Yeah, so I don't know how that happens. I mean, you also have to be kind of ugly and poor and have no game, which is kind of like, yeah, then you become incel. But that has always existed, right? Because nowadays, access to paid services, right? Sugar babies or whatever you want to call them, it's everywhere. Like Tinder and Bumble are like literally the sole purpose of those apps nowadays is to put together women who want payment for their services and men who are willing to pay. And honestly, I believe that almost everybody can afford it. So if a guy really wants to have sex, maybe not every day, maybe not even every week, but once in a while, and has some cash laying around, can just doesn't have to be an incel. So to me, that I don't know how that happens.
The Passport Bro movement is also considered as part of the manosphere. There are differences and overlaps, but overall, these groups are linked by one core idea: a feeling that men are losing out.
Women exercise more autonomy, and therefore, in the context of relationships, men might feel like that takes from their power.
When you think about what privilege is, psychologically speaking, then basically it means that you have occupied a spot in a hierarchy that has long remained unchallenged. So suddenly you see that someone is approaching that hierarchy. I could see how that would maybe aggravate some people.
A 2022 global study found that 1 in 3 men believed feminism has done more harm than good, compared to 1 in 5 women. A similar proportion of men also believe traditional masculinity is under threat today, and almost a quarter of the men surveyed agree that feminism is to blame for men's loss of economic, political, or social power.
Well, I don't give a shit about the last one, but the first two, look at this. Especially the second one. Traditional masculinity is under threat today. 33% of men agree. Where the fuck are the rest? 2/3 of the men. These are the men that need to be red-pilled. And I don't even understand how that's even yeah, they don't live in reality. That's why they need to be red-pilled. So I think the second question here is probably by far the most important. The last one, nobody gives a shit about. That's fine.
Compared to 15% of women.
I think feminism can become harmful when it tells a woman that you don't need a man, but not only do you not need a man, you don't want a man.
I think feminism is the ability for women to make their own choice and to have their own freedoms, and I'm all about that. I think there's a difference between that and extreme radical feminism. They think that men are dominating and oppressing women, whereas the average guy is just trying to make a living, just trying to support his wife, his family, just trying to do his duty. The average man is not a misogynist. The average man is not out to oppress.
Well, I think for me...
So this is why, this is why I want to become a popular channel. And this is like the big thing that I want to do. I call it menopause, where we decide as all men, or even a good part of us, that one day we're just not going to show up to our jobs, right? Whatever they are, policemen, firemen, men working on the oil rigs, whatever. And then see how women do. See if they, can survive those 24 hours without us. And if they really need us or not. Let's see if they find bears to do our jobs. To me, that is such a big goal of mine and dream of mine that I would love one day to become popular enough, and obviously, have a coalition with other, Red Pill or Passport Bros sort of influencers and media people where we can actually pull it off. That would be a great day.
For me, feminism is kind of...
Sorry, by the way, those of you guys who are watching me on TikTok, just so you know, the comments cannot make it all the way to my software that I use to stream for all these platforms. So if you want me to read and post your comments on the screen, you got to do it on either YouTube or Facebook or X. TikTok is its own fucking animal.
Looking at how patriarchy, or the system of social relations that favors men over literally everyone else, harms women and harms those that it oppresses, and also to see how it interacts with other systems of oppression. And without looking at it in this kind of structural way, we might not understand how these issues are actually very gendered, and it affects, poverty affects women differently than men.
The gender divide played out at the ballot box in November. Political observers have linked the victory of President-elect Donald Trump to his campaign strategy that targeted disaffected young male voters.
And I gotta tell you, my very first video on this channel was the clip of Kamala Harris, who which I believe was big part of losing this election. This is where she was asked the question by another feminist piece of shit, I forget her name, that can you think of any laws that direct where men can do what they want with their bodies, right? And they all laughed. Of course not, the draft, right? And this is like this is like, I was very really hesitant to vote for her, right? I was like, how can I vote for somebody who literally does not consider me, doesn't even understand my rights? And she's consistently always tried to take away men's rights. So how can I mean, I can swallow a lot of stupid shit that she said and did, right? But how as a man can I vote for somebody who laughs at, why don't you laugh at in the faces of Ukrainian men dying in those ditches while their wives are sipping coffee with their new boyfriends in Sweden and Poland? By the way, I've seen those women. They even come here. The other day, I met a Ukrainian girl on the train who decided to travel the world while her husband has to fight the war. I mean, why don't you fight? Yeah, that was awful. And yes, this is one of the reasons Trump won. And I think a lot of times I'm hoping that he is I don't like the guy, but I hope he delivers on some of these votes that he got. Like, for example, canceling out alimony, getting rid of that law, getting rid of hopefully the child support. I mean, not child support itself, but how it's done, right? In child custody, and some of the rape laws that make men who've done nothing wrong into rapists. So, yeah, this is this. And yet this has not awakened enough men yet to this.
On election day, NBC News exit polling showed the majority of young women voted for Kamala Harris, while young men mostly went for Trump.
I would say that the majority of foreigners that I meet and interact with support Trump. They feel that he identifies with their beliefs, their values, much more so than Harris.
I don't know if one of the reasons the passport bro / movement towards traditional roles is also affected by or affects how the world seems to be voting for populist leaders now. Bolsonaro in Brazil, Duterte in the Philippines, even Trump. But obviously, something isn't working. Right now, the most comfortable thing for many people to depend on, perhaps, is like a populist president or whatever. And is for very rigid traditional roles.
The tide is also turning in Southeast Asia. A report showed an increase in attitudes that reinforce traditional gender roles and undermine women's rights. For example, education and job prospects are seen as more important for males, while domestic violence against women is viewed more permissibly. Some worry that these societal movements will roll back the progress made by women in Asia.
มันก็มีความไม่เท่าเทียมด้วยตัวของมันอยู่แล้วครับเรื่องของความสัมพันธ์ภายใต้ร่มของชายเป็นใหญ่หญิงไทยหลายๆคนก็ยังคุ้นชินกับสถานภาพทางเศรษฐกิจสังคมที่ไม่เท่าเทียมคุ้นชินกับการที่จะต้องพึ่งพาเพศชายแม้ว่าการศึกษาผู้หญิงสูงกว่าแต่ยังมีความรู้สึกเรื่องของภาวะที่ยังต้องเป็นแม่และเมียอยู่ในขบวนการของ Passport Bro เนี่ยมันค่อนข้างเป็นประเทศที่เป็นมหาอำนาจเดินทางเข้ามาสู่ประเทศที่กำลังพัฒนาหาผู้หญิงที่จะมาบริการมาปรนนิบัติมาดูแลเหมือนแบบประหนึ่งว่าเป็นเมียในยุคเก่ามันไม่ใช่เป็นคู่ที่มันเป็นคู่ชีวิตที่มันเท่าเทียมกันแต่แรกอยู่แล้วเนี่ยคือสารตั้งต้นมันเป็นเช่นนั้นเนี่ยมันก็เป็นสิ่งที่น่ากังวลว่าคุณไม่ได้ยอมรับความเท่าเทียมระหว่างคู่สัมพันธ์ของคุณแต่คุณต้องการจะหาคนที่มันมีสถานะต่ำกว่า
It's weird, first of all, I do have to say that feminism and Western values and all that bullshit is sipping through here in Thailand, in other countries that I've visited here in Southeast Asia, even just Africa and stuff like that. So that's just going to happen sooner or later. And it's just, I hope by then I'm, hopefully figured it out. And, this is why it's important to date a girl who doesn't speak English, so that does not crush her. But the points, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with what he is saying, but it's not like we're specifically looking for women who are not educated or poor, right? It's just, it happens so that women who didn't pursue education because they wanted to maybe become better wives, and decided that career is not as important as other things and family and stuff like that. That's what kind of shaped them into better candidates for being wives in our eyes. So it's not like it's the chicken and egg, right? It's like it's the other way around.
The passport bros, however, disagree.
A feminist might suggest that I'm seeking a world where men hold dominion over women, that men are the boss, and I'm not seeking that at all. I admire women.
To think that just because men are coming over here, that they're all evil or that they all want to use their economic...
All right, before I hear what this guy says, the thing is, the previous guy, the real passport bro, is right. Like, I love women, right? What's wrong with me wanting to take care of these women, and in some cases have children with these women and families, and provide and protect them? Like, this is insane how this is like all of a sudden a negative thing. Unlike most people in America nowadays, my parents have been together for over 50 years. And they will die most likely together for however, many years are going to still be together, right? So I have an actual a model of a very rare, long-term, over half a decade relationship in front of me, So, all of these people, like if you were raised by a single mother or a sim father, you shouldn't even be hurt. Like, you should not have an opinion about this. You're not qualified. You don't understand what a successful family model is. If you're raised by a single mother, or again, as a weak ass pushover sim father, you don't have that. You just don't have that understanding. You should just shut the fuck up, and hopefully you will have a different outcome in your relationships. But men like me, or people like me, who have actually observed for all of my entire life what a real relationship is and what it takes to stay together for decades and decades, for as my parents did, somehow when we say, hey, look, we should do that, we should do what those parents of ours who are still together do, everyone goes like, well, you're this fucking message, and it's this pig fucking, you're just ruining everything for us, right? So it's unbelievable that actually we love women the most. American women are just no longer women. This is very important to understand. American women are no longer women. They're just dudes with pussies and tits. They act like men. Look at those fucking tattoos. Extremely masculine trait. Nose rings and all that bullshit that they do. Don't wear heels anymore. Don't dress up anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's just got careers. Where are the women? These are not women anymore. So it's kind of here we call them lady boys, right? Chicks with dicks. Is like, which nothing wrong with lady boys, but I'm just saying that's how I look at American women. I don't like them because I don't think of them as women, but I love actual real women. Lady boys here are more feminine than American women, and I'm not even trying to make a joke.
To disparage, like, take over women or whatever is wrong. So the ideal dynamic for a relationship for me is that we're both willing to do things that make the other person feel loved and secured and feel intimate.
And in case of your girlfriend is giving her lots of cash.
Before he met his girlfriend, Austin was active on dating apps. So was Pam, who is now seeing a European man she matched in Sweden. The proliferation of dating
was
apps.
I wrong? She actually has a boyfriend. Let's see. So that's what I've been talking about, right? A lot of these women end up dating men outside of Thailand. And these men have no interest in being in Thailand or Philippines or whatever. They'll come here. They'll use a girl like this up who thinks that she's so smart. And then they're going to go back home. or they already have a family there, right? But let's see if I could be wrong, right? So let's see, maybe he is around.
Dating apps has also been blamed for the mismatch in dating success between men and women. One study of Tinder found that women had a successful match for every 2 likes on the app, compared to 1 in every 40 for men.
Don't see a man next to her.
It creates just more visibility of how women are kind of afforded to be more choosy. Now there's a lot of
so it looks like I was right again. Wow. Yeah, so this man that she has, and I know some other women who actually, it's kind of weird. So I know some women who are, very submissive, traditional. They don't know any better, so they try to date this man from like that Filipino girl with the guy from Finland and become holiday girlfriends. But on the other side, like I know some women like the previous Thai girl who's essentially Americanized, westernized Thai girl and having trouble finding men. They would also fall for the same stupid trick. They would start dating a guy outside of Thailand who has no interest in Thailand, will come here only to play with her and then leave. And they kind of, it's weird that these women who are kind of the opposite spectrums fall for the same stupid old trick from these foreigners.
A lot of candidates, and you get to just kind of, go
I just noticed that this girl got a nose ring.
through your matches and see. And research shows that it takes men a longer time to accumulate a certain number of matches. And I think the visibility of this can create an additional layer of agreements.
A lot of these passport...
Well, not here in Southeast Asia. Like I said, I feel like men have not only more matches or more likes towards them in some apps, but as far as the type of a girl we're looking for. Because, a girl can have 500 guys liking her, but she will think that all 500 are not good enough. And they may not be, right? But out of 500 likes that we have, 50 of them would actually be pretty good options, right? So it's not about so much the quality of those matches, it's also the quantity. I feel like when men get a lot of likes here, the possibility of some of those likes being a real potential wife material women is so much higher than for women with their likes having a potential husband. So this documentary seems like, and I know it's a documentary and it's kind of scratching the surface because it's a very complicated issue. I wish they would actually do much more of a series on this. Maybe I should, but they're just not getting into the important details that essentially disprove a lot of statements that this documentary makes. By the way, I'm very grateful that they made this documentary. We need to talk about it. I didn't even need them to be 100% right. I just need people to know about it and start thinking about it. That's it.
Passport bros don't have great experiences in dating in the West. A lot of these average guys just feel like, man, I'm not catching the attention of the woman that I'm interested in. And they're seeing these guys who are living in Thailand or they're living in the Philippines, these passport bros videos, and they see that there
are not passport bros, but okay. Again, look at this girl, right? This is not a passport bro. Her tits are in my face and her face is in my face. A real modest traditional woman would not dress like this and would never be on camera. And if you're a good man who's here to hopefully make her into your wife, would never want her tits in other dudes' faces either.
There are other countries in the world where the expectations are not so absurdly high due to curated social media that isn't reflective of reality.
Coming out of the pandemic, the Philippines saw a 20 to 30% bump in locals marrying foreigners, while this rose by 15% in Thailand. While we can't...
It's so weird when they're showing some of the parts of, this is Bangkok. I know exactly where these places are, like literally like 10 minutes away. I can almost see them out of my window. I live in like a 30th floor, so it's pretty cool. I love this
place. This solely to the passport bro movement. These marriages were overwhelmingly between a foreign man and a local woman, while foreign women marrying local men are scarce. Although the passport bro movement is mostly viewed disparagingly in the West, here in Asia, the sentiment is more nuanced.
I don't think it's necessarily wrong, for example, for like a white man to date like a Filipino woman or a Southeast
Wait a
Asian.
second, didn't she say this was racist at some point? This girl confuses me. Sometimes something she says is completely ridiculous, and some of them are right on the money. What's going on with her?
But in Southeast Asia, there is this kind of...
I've been to this coffee shop, by the way. This coffee shop is first of all have horrible service, but also yeah, well, I'll keep that to myself actually.
Expectations that women in our region are subservient and meek and caring and will tend to your needs.
I don't feel like being dominated. Like, you know, we look at marriage like a team, like helping each other, and we're happy that works for us.
There's room for everybody, you know, as long as there's no exploitation, as long as there are no lies. We all have different wants, and if what you need is a more traditional wife or husband, you know, why not?
As for the self-identified passport bros we've met, they seem happy with their choice.
Men and women, we're very different. We think very differently. We have different motivations, we have different worries, we have different goals, priorities. So I think it's understanding our natural differences and then having some sort of harmonious synergy between masculine and feminine, between man and woman.
I have to say, out of everybody who they featured here, I can relate to the most, and he is probably the only. The other guy, Alex, also. I think these two guys like are actually real passport bros. In the full sense of the word, and I'm very happy. Like, I have nothing negative to say about his girlfriend. She dresses appropriately. She doesn't have any tattoos that I can see. She looks like she's a very proper Thai girl, and he also has the right attitude. Right, he's literally just wanted to fall in love and take care of this girl and be in love, and look. And here's the thing: think about what these American women are missing out on. Is he an ugly guy? I mean, I can't tell, but I'm assuming he's in shape. He looks like in shape. He's got nice features or whatever, nice hair. So he's not an ugly guy, right? He sounds like he's a good guy, right? His intentions are good. He's probably not a liar, probably not a drug addict, but he makes money online, so he's definitely traveled, right? He's well-traveled, well-spoken, well-intended. Think about the loss of American women who basically said, no, we don't want this guy, right? And yet this is the guy that they should want. This is one yet less potential good husband, potential good father that they got rid of, right? I hope I am in the same category and that other guy, Alex, in the same category. And this is why you see more and more women in America getting sort of really upset that, oh, there are no good men anymore. Well, guess what? Like I said, they're either at home jerking off and playing computer games, which is perfectly fine for them. I have friends like that. Or, hiring help, to meet their needs and are not really looking for a family. Or guys like him and that other Alex and me, Alex, who come here with good intentions to meet women that we want to hopefully marry one day. And this is, no one's going to lose except for American women on this. There's so many videos of them complaining about what's happening. A lot of them already missed the train. They're in their 40s and 50s and saying, well, that was stupid of us. And us, the guys who were here were happy, and look, it's just, what a loss for American women. And yet they continue doing this and driving men like this away. And I'm telling you, this is not going to end. This is bad for both sexes, but it's not going to end well for women.
It's been the greatest decision I've made. And I do have my Filipino ID. I'm proud of it. I'm a certified Filipino alien right now.
Am I seeking love? Yes. Yes, I think that's fair to say. I want to make sure that I can provide children a life that I didn't have growing up. I know that my destiny is here. I know that when I hit that point financially where it makes sense, then I will be here permanently.
All right. So like I said, most of this documentary, I just saw together with you guys. I only watched about 15 minutes before I decided I'm just gonna go live with this. And I got to tell you, so even though there were a lot of bullshit and misinformation in this documentary, but not enough for me to say this was bad. I think the most important thing for someone like me who's very red pill, right? If you're truly red pill person and advocate, this is good. This is awareness. And I think this has how many million views? Hold on a second. I can't see right now, but it's got good number of views, at least a few 100,000 for sure. So I think this is good. I hope, and the other day somebody pre-interviewed me for another documentary that they're making in Great Britain. So maybe I'll appear in one of these documentaries one day. But I've been certainly interviewed for other channels about this. I just hope more men and women see this, because they all need to wake up. Men need to start demanding some respect. They need to improving themselves. They need to stop being losers and simps. They need to provide more than just money, rather than just throwing money at women and essentially buying them and damaging them. They should improve everything in themselves, especially the foreigners that I see coming here, even though they don't need to be passport bros or think that they're passport bros and they're not, like that dude, whatever his name is. But I am all for bringing attention to this very important subject to which I'm now dedicating my career life to, despite the fact that I've already made it out, right? I'm not one of those influencers who is still in America or Great Britain, whatever, and complaining about women. I'm one of those men who, said, no, I am doing this. I'm going to carve my own destiny. And here I am in such a better place. And this not just about dating, it's just a better place. Again, if you want to take a shot at this, the millionmanproject.com, I have so like, am I playing a claw game? The millionmanproject.com is go there. You don't even have to pay. You can just look at my table of contents, and this will give you a very good idea of all of the steps that you need to take. The very first section of that course is where I even define for you what a traditional woman is. A lot of you don't know what a traditional woman is. So it is. So I'm very happy that I come. Actually, somebody sent it to me. I forgot who. Oh, one of my soccer mates sent it to me. So thank you for that, Steve. I will actually tomorrow we have a game, so I'll thank him for this, because I think this was great. But I also wanted this video, and I will probably repost it as a fresh video for people to see what a real passport bro, my reaction to what this documentary is. And I hope there are more. All right. Well, thank you so much for sticking around and watching this documentary and my reaction to it. It's 2:25 in the morning here in Bangkok, Thailand. Past my bedtime. So I'm going to finish this up. I have another video to post for you guys in about half an hour. There's going to be a short video as a vertical video. So enjoy that. Other than that, I'm trying to stream every day. So I guess I will see you tomorrow. Peace.